You know, Steve, I think we need to add to the opening of the show. We have to get that guy who says, "Bring me back my show," to that opening. I have to talk to Zach about. Maybe I'll just do it. You know, I'll tell him, Zach, call me up. I'll record it. We'll put it in there. But shout out to Zach Reed, who created that opening for us. We are two people here tonight, Steve. We were supposed to be three.
Dynamic duo here.
Yeah, ambiguously. I'm sorry.
Ambiguously dynamic duo here.
I remember someone asking us if we could push the show to 9:30.
Yeah,
and then he's still not here. So
right.
We may or may not be getting joined by Kevin shortly, and I'm sure when that happens, he'll come in like a bat out of hell, making a commotion as he does. But
I actually think he's going to come in all timid-like, and kind of act like he's been here the whole time. When we'll all know. We've already sold him out. So I think he's just going to try and slink in and then just join the conversation like nothing ever happened.
He's never slinked into anything in his life, that guy. So Kevin is he's home alone with his young daughter while his wife is back home in Detroit. And so he is a single parent, and he is finding out what it's like to try and put a child down while you have things to do. Not easy. So
I think he's trying to figure out, or he's finding out what it's like to be his wife.
Are you saying that he's wearing her clothes right now?
Well, I mean, if he's trying to really fit the part, probably. But I'm just saying Kevin is an absent father most of the time.
Well, this has gotten awkward. Welcome to the Fantasy Football Funhouse. This is the Week 2 preview episode. We're going to go game by game, tell you the players we are most interested in seeing perform based on what we saw in the first week, or what defenses they're going to be heading up against this week. You can find us on the Fantasy Football Funhouse feed or at the gridironexperts.com feed, where we are part of that family now. Check out the site where they have up right now. Everything for week 2 is up there. Rankings for week 2, streaming articles for week 2. The draft DFS strategy is up. 7 players to consider in FanDuel cash games in week 2. Sell low, buy high. I mean, they have everything you could want on that site and more podcasts. I mean, what do you need more than this? But there are some other great guys, Anthony and Mike, who do the FF Face-Off, are over there as well. And it's all very easy. You click on it, you go. It's technology. It's wonderful. Steve, have you been on there to check out the Gridiron Expert site?
Of course. Like you said, everything that they have, they cover all the bases. They do your waivers, they do the rankings, like they cover DFS, like you said, and it's all free. Nothing's behind a paywall on Gridiron Experts, so you are able to access everything that they have to offer, like this incredible show that you're listening to right now. So get on over to Gridiron Experts and do yourself a favor, help your fantasy knowledge get better and better, and help your teams out.
So incredible. We really are so incredible. So, we're going to probably be up against it with these games because there's so many of them. We're still full 16-game weeks. So I say we dive right into them, Steve. Who are we kicking off with?
All right. We are going to start with the Thursday night game, which is a live YouTube special because it will not be released. Everything you're hearing right now will not be on the podcast released. So I'm actually kind of sad that
Kevin smells like poo.
There we go. That's great.
It's not going to be on the podcast.
No, that's not going to be on there. So I'm really sad that Kevin is not here, actually, because I believe Kevin had Joe Flacco ranked as a top 10 quarterback this year, at least for week 1. He was all about Joe Flacco, and he ended the week as quarterback 7. It was a streaming option, late round QB. Anybody that listens to them and goes by that, drafting strategy would have been well suited with Joe Flacco, but they get the Bengals on Thursday night. Sal, do you think Flacco comes back to earth? What are you expecting from this Ravens team that just put up 40-plus points on the Buffalo Bills?
Yeah, I certainly don't believe that that'll happen. This is a divisional rivalry game. It's generally a tough battle between these teams. The Bengals are a good defense, not a great defense, but a good defense. Much improved this year. They just locked up a bunch of their guys long-term. So not for a chance do I believe he'll be even a top 10 quarterback this week. Most likely he'll be down around the 15 to 20 range, which is typical Joe Flacco territory for both him and Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton's another guy who I was shouting from the rooftops to start in week 1. He had a good week, not a great week serviceable week if you use them. So both of those guys I expect to be somewhere in the 15 to 20 range this week. I think that the running backs in this game are the guys I'm more interested in.
Yeah, I'd absolutely agree with that. Alex Collins, who had kind of a rough game last week, he fumbled, which caused a lot of problems. It might have cost him a little bit of playing time, plus the absolute blowout that the Ravens dropped on the Bills. And then Joe Mixon, of course. Joe Flacco, real quick, threw 3 touchdowns in that week 1. He might not throw 3 touchdowns in one game for the rest of the season. It does not happen for him very often. So do not go chasing those type of points. Just like Sal said in our last show, don't go chasing Ryan Fitzpatrick points.
Don't go chasing Flacco points.
That's right. Great. This is going to be a great theme throughout the entire show. I can't wait. Yes, Joe Mixon being treated as a running back 1. We talked about the snap percentages in the last show. His touch
92%.
92%. That is a running back 1. So you have to be excited about that. AJ Green got in the end zone. Should have had a better day than he ended up having against the Colts. So you're going to go ahead and get him into your lineup. But the Ravens have a pretty good secondary. They have a good defense. Are you worried about AJ Green at all?
No, for me, AJ Green is you plug him in every week and you play him. He's a elite wide receiver. Maybe not what he was just 3 years ago, but he's still right on that cusp. So I don't worry about him. I plug him in. If he doesn't have a great week, there's no other option I would prefer on my roster unless I'm in a 3-team league, and I also have OBJ and Antonio Brown on my roster. So I'm not going to start any of the other wide receivers this week for the Bengals. Those guys will be on my bench. But I'd be okay starting both Michael Crabtree and John Brown on the other side because the numbers should be okay. Again, not great. We've discussed this multiple times on a podcast where a quarterback can not have a great day but still sustain starting wide receivers in fantasy. So I think both of those guys will do enough to be wide receiver 2 to flex worthy this week, and I'd get them in there. And important note to what you pointed out about Alex Collins, maybe lose a little playing time. Kenneth Dixon, once again, injured, placed on the IR today. And I think that this has got to be the end of the road for Kenneth Dixon in Baltimore. It's been nothing but a struggle of suspensions and injuries. He's never gotten a consistent, I think, 2 games in a row on that team. It's a guy Kevin was very high on, and rightfully so. He had a great college career, and he looked very promising when he came out 3 seasons ago, but it's just been nothing but trouble. He probably resurfaces for another team next year, but I doubt it would be in Baltimore.
All right. And then real quick, before we move on to the Sunday slate, Tyler Eifert played an entire game, is not on the injury report as of yet. Didn't have the game that we all thought he would. We all thought he would come back with a flash and maybe get into the end zone, as he is known to do from time to time. Are you worried about him at all? Are you taking him out of your lineup this week until you see them start to use him a little more? What are your thoughts on Eifert going into this week?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not worried about him because I know what they're doing. I know that they're not putting him in there on typical plays where he would have to block. They're making it, a very easy acclimation back into playing full time. So, listen, I think he got 3 targets in the game and caught all 3 of his targets in the game. And so I expect I'd have to know what I have on my roster. So he was the tight end 13 last week. 3 targets, 3 receptions, 44 yards. Not a bad day. Again, it doesn't take a lot for a tight end to be a tight end 1. So he was right on the cusp. And with injuries at other places, for instance, I have him in a Yahoo league where I lost Delaney Walker last week, and he will be in my lineup this week, taking his place. So it's all about what else you have. I'm sure if you drafted him, he wasn't the only tight end you took. So check the matchups. But I think, there's a possibility he could get himself a red zone touchdown this week.
All right. We are going to you said 16 games, Sal. We're only going to talk about 15 games. All right. We're hitting the Sunday slate, the weekend games.
Math is hard.
It is. I understand. We'll give you a pass on this one. There's only 2 of us. There's a lot of pressure on you today.
You noticed my shoulders were tense. I know.
All right. First game up. We're going to talk about the Panthers traveling to Atlanta for a divisional game against the Falcons. News from these teams this week. We've got Greg Olsen with the foot injury. He is going to miss a lot of time this year, at least 8 games. I think he's going to be placed on the IR if he hasn't been already. He's hoping to come back at some point this season, dealing with the same injury that he had last year. So that is a huge loss. I believe Ian Thomas is the tight end that steps into his role there. And then on Atlanta side of the ball, we've got Devonta Freeman, who hurt his knee last week. They're saying everything's fine structurally, nothing to worry about there, but he's still not practicing, I don't believe, or practicing in a limited fashion. Sal, what do you think about these injuries? We'll start with Atlanta and Devonta Freeman, who's a higher draft pick, somebody that a lot of people invested a lot of draft capital in.
Yeah, I gotta keep an eye on this going forward. He did not practice today. I don't like when people say he's fine. It's like something my mother used to say, it's fine, honey, don't worry about it, it's fine. I never trusted that when my mother would say that. So he's probably gonna play. Panthers are, pretty good defense, fairly steady. Listen, like you said, he's a high draft pick. If he's playing, more than likely you're gonna have him in your lineup. So pay close attention and see if he gets back on the field tomorrow. If he's not practicing at all, and they're gonna, it's gonna be a game time decision, then you got to make other plans.
What I've actually seen I've been answering a lot of questions on Fantasy Life app lately, and a lot of people who have Devonta Freeman also seem to have Tevin Coleman. If Devonta Freeman plays, do you still start him over Tevin Coleman? Do you start them both? Do you start Coleman in his place? What do you do if you have both of these guys? Well,
in the league that we are in together, the Sleeper Wire Pro-Am that I did the draft for, I drafted both of those guys. And I'm actually playing Freeman for us as a running back and Coleman as our flex. So I had them both in there last week, and Coleman had the better day. But Coleman has standalone value. So I think I find a way. I don't think I use them as both my tight end. I'm sorry, my running back 1 and 2. But Coleman for me is a definite flex this week. And I am actually comfortable if I have both of them. And my options aren't plentiful, which are not in that league. I am comfortable playing both of those guys because Coleman has a definitive role in that offense.
I would agree with that. Julio Jones is going to catch a lot of balls, get a lot of yards, hopefully get a touchdown. Maybe
led the league in targets in week 1. Nearly 20 targets in week 1. So you gotta love that. Now, if Matt Ryan could throw them to him while he's in bounds, that would be fantastic.
That would be great. Carolina side of the ball, Christian McCaffrey, he had a good game last week, didn't get into the end zone. Maybe that happens for him this week. Greg Olsen, like I said, out with the injury. Who do you think benefits the most with Greg Olsen being out now, other than Ian Thomas, who obviously gets to step in and start playing? Who do you think benefits from the lack of targets that would have been going to Olsen?
Yeah, so I did see where they said Ian Thomas would step up, but then I saw a note today that said it would be a committee approach at tight end. So if you're in a deep league and there wasn't a lot on the waiver wire and you had to pick up Ian Thomas to directly replace Greg Olsen, I understand you popping him in there, but I play Tyler Eifert over Ian Thomas this week. So check the matchups, check what's available. I think the guy who gets an uptick here is Devin Funchess, right? Because of his size and his ability in the red zone. You're looking for a big target, a guy that Cam Newton is familiar with and comfortable with. So I think that this move Funchess into wide receiver 2 territory for me this week, a guy who I'm not typically comfortable with. I own 0 Funchess. So I'm speaking to you as a guy who doesn't own him anywhere because it just wasn't drafting him. But I would say that I'm comfortable with him as my wide receiver 2 this week, and I think he'll get a lot of attention.
Well, that's good that you will not be able to utilize that anywhere that I may or may not be playing you in. So good. I'm glad. I'm happy about that. Real quick before we move on and welcome in our guest for the remainder of the show. Are you surprised that the Panthers are +6 in this game?
Yes. It's in Atlanta, correct?
Yes.
And the Panthers are +6?
Yes.
Oh yeah, I'd be surprised if they were +6 at home. They're +6 on the road. That's I would ante my money up in Atlanta for this game.
No. The Panthers are +6.
Oh, +6.
I'm not are +6.
So Kevin, before you came on, because Kevin's here, everybody. I mentioned
you ruined the surprise.
I mentioned that I'm not good with math, and I obviously just pointed that out again. I'm not listening to Steve very closely. The Panthers are getting 6. I don't expect this to be. I expect this to be a close game. I do believe the Falcons are going to win it, but I would take the Panthers getting the 6 because I could picture this being a field goal game.
All right.
I don't know. I mean, on the road in Atlanta, you got
Kevin, everybody.
What's up, everybody? Glad to be here. I'm a little sad that I missed all the John Brown talk, but I guess no one on the listening to the podcast.
I knew we forgot to mention somebody.
Nobody listening to the podcast knows that anyway, I'm sure. So we're just gonna move along. I don't know. 6 seems about right. I think it's pretty close. I think that the Falcons are gonna win. They're gonna be looking to avenge their terrible play from last week, and the Panthers already seem banged up. Obviously, you just talked about Greg Olsen, and I don't know, just something about the Panthers just doesn't feel right this week. And at home in Atlanta,
How long have you been listening to us?
It's weird. I've been here the whole time, Steve.
I knew it. Yeah. I'm going to be on an island here.
You were going to say that when you came on.
I did. I am going to take the Panthers to win this game. So
You're wrong.
I think plus
You're
6.
just wrong. You like being wrong, don't you?
Yeah. Everyone else seems to enjoy it. So
contrary
give
to last
people
week,
what they want.
Contrary to last week when the Panthers and the Cowboys put up essentially a dud, and even the Panthers didn't have a good turnout, I think there'll be plenty of points to go around. Steve, what's the over/under in this game?
I don't have that.
Okay, well, I expect it. I expect there to be plenty of points, and I believe this will be a huge Christian McCaffrey game.
44.5 is the over/under. So
I would
very high.
I would go over that all day, and I'm going to be doing a bold predictions article at the end of the week for Fanball, and Christian McCaffrey might factor into my bold prediction.
All right, we are already way behind. We're going to move on.
Good God have mercy.
Yeah, I mean, it's shocked 2 games. Guys, you've only gotten through a game and a half in the time that it took me to hop on here. So
I know, brutal.
Thanks for calling me a guest, by the way, Steve. I appreciate that. That's nice. It makes me feel important.
It's so seldom that you're here.
All right. Well, this game is not going to take very long. We're going to do the Indianapolis Colts traveling to Washington to face their football team there. This is kind of a tight end wonderland in this game now. You've got Jordan Reed, you got Jack Doyle, you've got Eric Ebron, who, although I'm not a huge fan, I understand that he's got some sort of value.
Say he's good.
Offense.
Say he's good.
I'm not going to say he's good. I'm going to say he has value. Kevin, we'll start with you since you're new to the show. What do you think about this game?
Wow. New to the show. I mean, I am here every week, Steve, just about. I mean, I think maybe I've missed a couple more episodes than you have, but ultimately, I think I've actually been here more than you.
No, you have, absolutely.
So, anyway, what do I think about this game? Yeah, I mean, I think that the Colts defense it's been pointed out to me on a regular basis that they're not very good. And I don't know how good the Washington defense is. I don't know if they're that gelled yet. I think they have some decent pieces, and they could be a good defense down the line, but I'm not sure if they're there yet. So this could be a very high scoring game and a lot of fantasy goodness to be had by all. I really like Chris Thompson in this game on the Washington side of the ball. Alex Smith showed me that he can still throw for limited yards, but a whole bunch of touchdowns. So I like that about him. He would be a guy that I'm looking to target this week as well. And on the Colts side of the ball, I as we mentioned earlier in the week when we talked about the recap from this weekend, I don't want anything to do with any of these running backs on the Colts. For me, the Colts offense is all T.Y. Hilton, Andrew Luck, and Ebron and Doyle. Maybe Ryan Grant gets a little bit of satisfaction in this game because he got screwed over by Washington, and that would be nice. But yeah, that's it.
I'm loving
Do you think Ryan Grant's the number 2? Do you think you can trust him?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that you're ready to trust him in your fantasy lineups yet. I mean, he had a nice production day and a lot of targets and receptions in the first game, and I think he has asserted himself. I think the word out of Indy is that he's asserted himself as the number 2, but it's going to be a little bit of time before I could trust him. I got to see Luck be consistent and be able to carry 2 wide receivers.
I thought you were going to see Luck be a lady, and that would have been really weird.
Luck be a lady.
Don't get him started tonight, Kevin.
Kevin doesn't know I'm in a singing mood tonight, by the way.
Don't.
I was singing pre-show. I've been singing on the show. Go ahead, buddy.
Do you guys, or Sal, I'll ask you, Sal, do you think it's smart for the Colts to have Andrew Luck throw the ball 53 times a game?
They don't have a choice.
Thank you, Sal. No, I don't think it's smart. But it's every time they try to get it, it's like trying to tell Cam Newton not to run, right? It's what they do best. And we don't have any established running back there yet. Maybe when Marlon Mack comes back, we'll see if he could get something steady going on. I heard Kevin's head jingling just now, shaking left to right. So it's not smart. They should probably get that down to somewhere around 40 to 42 passes a game, try to balance it out a little bit better. I agree with Kevin on probably starting any running backs from that team this week.
I'd argue that only because I think we've talked about it before with football. They try not to run guys out there until they're healthy, particularly quarterbacks. And they're certainly not going to, call up 50-plus passing plays in the first week of the season if they don't think his shoulder can take it. So for me, it's fire away.
That's fair. I don't have a problem with that.
So much like Adrian Peterson, play him, run him into the ground. When he's done, peel him back, send to the next guy. And with luck, fly him around. Jacoby Brissett's waiting in the wings.
Yeah, I mean, I got Jacoby Brissett for $10 in a league with you, Sal. So
$5.
$5.
I sold you for $5 last year.
He was my starting quarterback last year in a 2-quarterback league.
Where'd you finish in that league?
Dead last.
Dead last is the answer.
Things are spiraling. We're talking about Jacoby Brissett for some reason. We're going to move on from this game unless anyone has any important news to talk about.
No, come on. Let's
go. Nope. All right. Moving on to the next game that seemed to be riddled by injuries already. The Texans visiting the Tennessee Titans. We've got DeAndre Hopkins that showed up on the injury report dealing with a minor foot injury. We've got Corey Davis that showed up on the injury report dealing with a hamstring. Marcus Mariota, he's got an elbow injury. We lost Delaney Walker last week to a severe ankle injury and ligament damage. He's going to be out for the rest of the season. All kinds of injuries. What are you looking forward to this game, Kevin?
There's a lot of injuries for sure. I'd like to see Marcus Mariota bounce back. It sounds like, based on today's news from quotes from the head coach Mike Vrabel, that he's doing better and he's on track to play. Although some reporters suggested that he had a little less zip on the ball during practice that they saw, so that'd be something to keep an eye on. But I'd like to see him come back and actually play the full game and not a game that was delayed several hundred times in several hours. So we'll see. Because I have a lot of Mariota stock, and I'd really like to see him play, the way he can play. Unfortunately, he goes from, having a horrible experience in Miami and with the weather and his elbow and all that to a matchup against a very difficult defense. The Texans can certainly get after the passer. So, I'd like to see him use his legs a little bit in this game, do some scrambling like he's prone to do, throw on the run a little bit, get out of the pocket and move around a little bit and make those, mid to deep throws downfield when he's on the move, because I think that can help open things up for them. That's really what I want to see out of this game. It's really all about Marcus Mariota for me. I'd like to continue to see Derrick Henry do nothing, because it's just funny every time I talk about Derrick Henry with Sal, because he's just heavily invested.
Yeah, I'm heavily invested, but I'm not fooling myself, right? And 2 words for you, buddy: Blaine Gabbert. Anyway, the Texans last week gave up 10.
What's a Blaine Gabbert?
He's going to be the guy who's playing in the second half this week.
I'm kidding. Obviously, I know who Blaine.
The Texans gave up 10 receptions for 71 yards of the touchdown to running backs last week. As we know, the Patriots use their running backs almost like wide receivers, but there's a Patriot running back in the backfield for Tennessee in Dion Lewis, and I'm expecting this to be a big Dion Lewis game. They also gave up 107 yards rushing last week to running backs. So I think that this game, Kevin, is actually more about the 2 running backs in Tennessee as Mariota gets healthy. Because he had more than just – he had a wrist or hand injury, the elbow injury. I believe his leg got banged up. If they're listing it just as an elbow, he left the game at 2 different times. And at one point, actually lost feeling in his hand. I wasn't able to grip the ball correctly last week. And that might be tied back to the elbow. But I don't think that they rely on Mariota in this game. I think there's a clear path against the Texans with the running. And who knows if that's even. It's a good defense, as you established. So with all the injuries, I'm just surprised J.J. Watt has made it to week 2. I'm happy for that.
Yeah, good for him. I mean, great to see.
As someone who has the Houston defense in falafel, I'm very happy that J.J. Watt has made it to week 2. I hope he continues to make it throughout the entirety of the season. I will also note real quick before we move on, Will Fuller has been practicing in a limited fashion so far. He was a game-time decision last week that decided to hold him out. So keep an eye on him if you need a flex play or in a deeper league, maybe a wide receiver 2. You can go ahead and...
Let me just ask you guys real quickly. Deshaun Watson, if you're in a 1 quarterback league, you obviously probably drafted him fairly high because we all saw how high he was going. So, but with that hope that, considering he was coming off the injury and seeing as how he looked marginal, in my opinion, in the first game as someone who was actually in the stadium, I didn't get to see the close-ups, but would you be concerned going into this game? Would you think about putting whoever your backup is, for another game and seeing what happens, or are you just rolling with it and see and hope that he turns it around?
I would definitely give him one more game, or I would give him probably another game after that too, because of the capital that you invested in him. You did that for a reason. It's not just because of any certain thing other than what you saw him do on the field last year. You saw how good he was. So that the talent is in there. You know that he's got it. It's just like, it's no different than Russell Wilson having a bad year after, him lighting the league up. So I think you give him a little more time, but I would definitely be adding another quarterback as soon as possible. Not everybody drafts more than one quarterback. So after that first week, I would have made that a priority to add somebody else that you think might hold a little value. But I would give him a little more time to see if things come together a little more.
Obviously, Tom Brady last week, 3 touchdowns passing. And it's Brady, but the Texans, who have been a good defense in the past, they gave up some stuff last week. So you're going to probably have to play him. He was a very high draft pick.
Is he playing against his own defense?
I'm sorry?
He playing against
my goodness.
Playing against his own defense?
What is wrong with me ttonight?
I've never seen that before. This is a new type of game we're playing.
So he's probably better off playing against his own defense.
We're going to go ahead and edit that out on the podcast.
Sal is definitely not feeling it tonight.
You're too musical, Sal. You're too focused on the music tonight.
All right.
Me.
All right. We're going to move on to the Philadelphia Eagles traveling to Tampa Bay to face the 1-0 Buccaneers, who just went into New Orleans and upset the Saints. Sal, we'll start with you here. Are you expecting the Buccaneers to upset the Eagles back to weeks?
Who are we talking about here? Who's playing? No, definitely.
The Eagles are playing the Eagles defense and
the Eagles. So what you're telling me is Ryan Fitzpatrick going against the Bucs defense. Now I released my QB sleepers and QB landmines today on Fanball, and the guy I felt who was somebody you want to stay away from this week is Ryan Fitzpatrick. We spoke about it last night on who would you pass on this week if you had to if you needed to pick a quarterback up on a waiver wire. I don't want anything to do with Ryan Fitzpatrick. It's going to be a very, very tough week for him. The Eagles didn't play great in week 1, managed to get the win. I expect them to be a little bit better, a little bit healthier, a little bit more of the rust and the Super Bowl celebration hangover gone. And I think the Eagles thoroughly dominate Tampa Bay on a whole in this game. I think it's a blowout. I think Tampa puts up 10 points maximum in this game.
You know what? I felt that same exact way about New Orleans playing Tampa last week, and that did not work out so well for me. But I agree with you. That's the way it should go. Steve, what's the line there?
Eagles -3.5.
-3.5. You want to say that they're going to crush that, right? I mean, obviously that puts it at a 6.5 spread if it was a neutral field, right? Obviously, so it makes me nervous though that the Bucs were that good. I'd love to see Mike Evans continue it, but that also means that Fitzpatrick's not going to turn back into a pumpkin like he usually does the week after he has a game like this. So I'm with you, Sal. I think that Tampa Bay falters again ultimately, and the Eagles defense is very, very good. Their defensive line is so good. When you have Michael Bennett, who's a phenomenal pass rusher, who's basically only been in sub packages so far this year. I mean, obviously one game, but still he was on the field less than he's ever been. That's an amazing defensive line. So they're going to have to do a lot to move the ball at all. I don't know that there's going to get anything going in the running game. Peyton Barber really wasn't great last week. I don't think that Jaquiz Rogers is the answer. Maybe they activate Ronald Jones this week and we see a little bit of him. That would be nice because I'd be curious to see what he could do. But overall, that team's should be an offensive mess. But we'll see what happens. Because is Deshaun Jackson going to play? Do we have any update on that?
He's in concussion protocol and then also dealing with a shoulder injury. So it is not looking like he's going to play. Chris Godwin, someone that we talked about on the last show as a waiver wire ad, is going to be in line for wide receiver 2 duties this week.
Could be a good DFS play there if you're looking for a sleeper. Godwin might be cheap, and if Deshaun Jackson's out, you might get a little fire in a bottle there. I guess the question I have for you, Steve, is the Eagles' running game. We saw Ajayi salvage last week with 2 touchdowns, but overall he didn't look very efficient and very great. The end of the game was a little better. You see better things for him this week, or are you a little nervous that the touchdowns aren't going to save him this week?
I think he's the running back to start for that team. I don't think that you can start Clement. I don't think that Darren Sproles is a very viable option. He's also dealing with a hamstring injury. He is practicing in a limited fashion. But I think Ajayi is the guy that you're going to rely on to get the most carries. I think he's got the most touchdown upside. I think if you're going to start one of these guys, he's the one to do it. And, he might not get 2 touchdowns every week. He's a good candidate to get 1 because he's going to get goal line work from them. But I worry, I guess, as a whole of how this Eagles offense is going to move because Foles is going to be the starting quarterback once again. You assumed that, the Bucs were going to lay down and get rolled over by the Saints. That did not happen. The Saints did put up a lot of points, but Nick Foles is not Drew Brees. So it's going to be interesting to see what this Eagles offense does. But Ajayi is the guy that you want to roll out there from that backfield.
Listen, Tampa is not coming out and surprising anybody this week, right? They put it all into that game
last
plan.
week, though. Would you have said that last week?
But what's what I'm saying? But the cat's out of the bag now. Okay, they put everything into that. First of all, I don't care what New Orleans did last year. They are not on Philadelphia's level as a defense. Not even close. Not even close. So I don't expect it to be even. That's it. I'm betting everything I have. That's it. What is it? 3.5? Get me my bookie right now.
Do it, Kevin. Do it.
Yeah, speaking of my bookie, it's interesting because a lot of people will ask us on a regular basis advice about fantasy football, and even more so, who's going to win the game. Obviously, Sal just told you who's going to win this game and by how much. But, the truth is he actually doesn't know. Steve definitely doesn't know, and I sure as hell don't know. So that's why you got to check out my bookie. You got to know that who you're betting on is just as important as who you're betting with. That's why we always tell people to bet with my bookie. It's the best bet this season because they've been in business for years. They have great reviews online. Their mobile site's easy to use. The lines are consistent and easy to figure out, even for guys like Sal who don't bet enough and really don't understand what to do. So lay down some cash, win big today. Basically, we don't recommend this service because we use it. And I know that Steve is a guy that bets a lot. And if he's using a site, you got to know it's good. So I would say get out there and get to my bookie because if you win, they pay. They have in-game live betting, most rewarding player perks in the business. And for all of us fantasy guys out there, you can even bet the over-under on how many fantasy points a player will score each game. Sal, you hear that? We're gonna go over the Seahawks game later, I assume. Do you want to lay a little bet down with me on Tyler Lockett?
No, I'm liking Tyler Lockett this week.
I want you guys to lay down a Will Dissly bet.
Will Dissly bet. Oh, jeez.
Hard pass.
We'll get into that. All right. So here's what you got to do. You got to join now, and my bookie will match your deposit dollar for dollar. I believe it's up to $100 if you use the promo code FFL. So, Steve, you mentioned last time we talked about this. It's very easy to remember. Even you can remember FFL. That's the code. You get 100% match. That's 100% match. So visit MyBookie online today. That's MYBOOKIE. And don't forget to use the promo code FFL. You play, you win, you get paid.
I'm writing that down. Is that F? Say it again. F?
Yeah, FFL. Do you want me to
two
sing
F's
it?
and an L.
There's one L? That's okay, got it.
No Unhouse in there.
All right. We are going to move on, of course, because we're already behind. We've got a lot of games left. But luckily for this next game, we only have to talk about one team. We are doing the Kansas City Chiefs, who are going to play the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh. We don't have to talk about Pittsburgh. Le'Veon Bell doesn't look like he's showing up, so you're starting James Conner. You're starting Antonio Brown. You're starting Juju Smith-Schuster. That should be all that you are in any type of position to be forced to start. You go with those. You don't have to start Ben Roethlisberger. You can.
You don't have to, but you can.
He is a viable streamer this week.
Did you see what
Absolutely.
Philip Rivers did last week?
I saw. I was watching. I saw.
So you start Ben Roethlisberger is what he's saying.
Is not an automatic start. Not automatic.
I got a stat here. I'm gonna.
All right. Anywho, I'm talking about the Chiefs. Sal, we're gonna start with you. We saw what Tyreek Hill did last week, but I'm going to ask: are you worried about Kareem Hunt or Travis Kelce, or do you think that that was just a game plan, something that was working last week against the Chargers? What do you think about Kareem and Travis? We're on first name basis now.
No, I'm not worried about either one of those guys. Those are automatic thoughts for me on a weekly basis. It's one game. We can't overreact to one game. I get them in there. I start my studs. Those guys are both studs. No question about it. I will say, Kevin, that after watching last week, it reaffirmed for me that Rob Gronkowski is the best tight end in football. So that was that.
Receiver one in falafel.
Are you sure?
But to I'm going to point out the stat, Steve. I'm going to go back a minute here. Opposing QBs versus the Chiefs defense so far, including the preseason, okay, the starting Chiefs defense. Brandon Weeden, 9 of 11, 97 yards, 2 touchdowns, 8.8 yards per attempt. Matt Ryan, 5 out of 7, 90 yards, 1 touchdown, 12.8 yards per attempt. Chase Daniel, 15 out of 18, 198 yards, 2 touchdowns, 11 yards per attempt. Deshaun Kaiser, 5 out of 7, 57 and 1. And Philip Rivers last week, 31 for 51, 424 yards, 3 touchdowns, 8.3 yards per attempt. Ben Roethlisberger, with the home side of the home road splits, is an absolute lock 'em and load 'em start this week.
You hear that, Steve? Lock 'em and load 'em.
I hear that. I cannot wait to see this game play out. I cannot wait.
I feel like this is the perfect time to head over to MyBookie and put a wager on an over-under for a player's fantasy points.
Oh, the old Ben Roethlisberger. I wonder what he's set at over there.
The old Ben backdoor Roethlisberger. I love it.
Tell you what, anytime I've ever thought to start Ben Roethlisberger and actually gone through with it, it hasn't ended well. A lot of tears
maybe you're
at the end of those games. I am a problem, that is for sure. But that's it.
You cry a lot.
That's true. That is true. I'm not going to deny that. Is there anything else to talk about this game? You got 2 good offenses. You start these guys each and every week, basically. They're matchup proof.
Hey,
Kevin?
Just real quick, I'd like to mention, you guys laughed at me when I mentioned that Spencer Ware might be used a little bit this season, and he did have over 5 fantasy points. Just saying, first game back from a rough injury. He's a guy you want to keep an eye on for the season because
3 carries and 1 catch, and they just happened to break a big one.
Yeah, but doesn't that earn you more usually? I'm just saying, just keep an eye on him. That's all.
Who would have thought a year ago we'd be having this conversation in this direction?
The roles have reversed. Look, I'm not saying put him in your lineup, but if he's on the end of your bench, don't cut him and keep an eye on him if he's on the waivers because he might be a guy that earns a little more, work throughout the season. That's all.
I don't think he'll ever be a standalone value like we've just talked about with Austin Eckler. I don't think Spencer Ware will get up to that point.
There will be games this season where Spencer Ware scores more points than Austin Eckler.
All right. You hear that, best ballers? You hear that?
I know.
Get Spencer Ware on your team.
There will be games. So we're not gonna expect Austin Eckler to score 20 points a week, right? I think on a normal week, he's not going to get that kind of work because Melvin Gordon is a workhorse and he is going to get the majority of touches, right?
Well, I
Agreed?
mean, it was a 70-30 split in touches in favor of Melvin Gordon in that game. Eckler got 5 receptions, 5 carries. He just did a lot with them. No,
Right.
I think Eckler will be a bigger part of the weekly offensive plan in LA than where we'll be in Kansas City.
What I'm suggesting is that 10 touches overall, there will be a point in this season where I could see Spencer Ware starting to work up to that. He had 5 this week. It's not out of the realm of possibility for him to get another 5 in a couple of weeks as he gets reacclimated to the offense. That's all. Just throwing it out there.
Have your moment.
It's just funny to me how much you hate Spencer Ware now.
I don't hate him. I still own him in pigs too.
All right, we're going to move on. The Miami Dolphins travel north to face the New York Jets. Kevin, is Sam Darnold a one-trick pony, the 1 week flash in the pan, or is he going to be able to carry this Jets team against the Dolphins, who just upset, I think a lot of people would say, the Tennessee Titans in a very weird game, albeit. But what do you think of Sam Darnold? Do you think he's going to help turn this team around? You know these teams well.
I think that the Sam Darnold will eventually help turn this team around. I think he's a rookie. He's going to have a lot of ups and downs this season. I don't think it's going to be, that kind of performance every single week. But he's probably going to have a couple of more games like that. And he's probably going to have a couple of games where he, throws 3 picks and gets, 150 yards. So I can see both happening, but I did like what I saw out of Sam Darnold. If you are a Sam Darnold fan and a Jets fan, as Sal talked about, with his son being a Jets fan, you should be happy. You should be pleased with what you saw. From a fantasy perspective, how many single quarterback leagues are you starting Sam Darnold? Probably not many. This would be a week where I would consider it if you don't have a better option, if you are in a 2 quarterback league for sure, because I don't think the Dolphins are very good at football. I think that the first week was a fluke based on the type of game that it was, and I don't think their defense is very good. I think they went up against a team who lost their quarterback and couldn't really get anything going on offense. I expect the Jets to score some points in this, and especially being at home with the their home opener, right? They played on the road last time, so
yep.
Home opener with the new quarterback, a lot of buzz about the team. Yeah, I expect the place to be fired up, and I think they'll score points. So I could see Darnold scoring some decent points this week.
I ran into a friend of mine who's a Jet fan, big-time Jet fan, used to have season tickets for years, 50-yard line. And when it was time to move to the new stadium,
the fire hat guy?
No. They basically priced him out of the stadium when they moved to the new stadium because it was, I believe, $25,000 per seat just for the seat licensing. And they priced him out of the stadium. So he's kind of disgruntled and he hasn't been following the team as closely as he used to. And I ran into him today and we were talking. He's like, he was excited. He goes, my wife put the game on the other night. She forced me to watch it. I got caught up in it. He's like, what do you think about this kid? I said, well, exactly what Kevin's saying. He's a rookie. So he might go out this week and look like he has no goddamn idea what he's doing. And that's going to happen off and on all season. So I definitely don't start Sam Darnold this week. But I could tell you I feel like the defense is legit because of Todd Bowles and because of what he brought over and because he took 3 years to clean out the old guys and bring in his guys and set this up the way he wants it. I think that defense will come out every week and keep the Jets in every single game. I think there's a big running game week for the Jets. I think Crowell and Powell are both guys I would have in as flex-worthy starters this week, and Crowell probably more of an RB2. And I would probably start just Anunwa. I don't know if I'd start Robbie Anderson. I mean, Robbie Anderson, again, is the type of guy you're going to play him when you're desperate because you're possibly looking at like Kenny Stills, like Kevin compared Kenny Stills the other day. He might have 2 receptions for 2 touchdowns, 90 yards, or he might have 2 receptions for 7 yards or nothing. So Robbie Anderson's not a guy Anunwa's a guy I feel comfortable playing every week at this point.
All right, and just real quick, you mentioned him, Kenny Stills. Do you think he has earned his spot into at least a flex position, Sal?
Yeah, I think he's the go-to guy. Kenny Stills is a starter every week for me at this point. We still saw guys like Galladay and Tate get yardage and touchdowns the other night against this defense, even though as well as the defense played. So I'd be okay putting Kenny Stills out there.
All right, and Kevin, very quickly, running back for the Dolphins, you have to start one this week. Is it Kenyon Drake, or are you giving the nod to Frank Gore, or are you avoiding them both altogether?
I'd probably still start Kenyon Drake unless maybe as a flex play. He's not anything high, but I'm not really starting Frank Gore anywhere. I don't own him anywhere because I just don't see the value there. I don't, he might get some volume here and there, but I don't think he's going to be all that great, even when he does. So Kenyon Drake's the guy that I'd look to see going. I think he had 17 carries last week, and hopefully he continues to get that kind of volume, and eventually he'll look better with it.
All right, we're going to move on. The Los Angeles Chargers traveling east to face the Buffalo Bills, and the Josh Allen era is beginning. Nathan Peterman has already lost the starting quarterback role. They're passing it over to Josh Allen. Evidently, they like their rookie quarterbacks to make their first starts against the Chargers, much like Nathan Peterman did last year. We all remember that 4 or 5 interception first half that he had. Hopefully that does not go the same for Josh Allen. Sal, what do you expect from this Bills team going forward, especially LaShawn McCoy, who had a particularly tough time last week against the Ravens, a very tough rush defense game that got out of control? Do you think that it was just that, or do you think that he might actually be done on this offense with no Tyrod Taylor there anymore to help alleviate some of that defense?
Yeah, well, first about the Bills, I'm going to give credit to Kevin here. They are the worst defense in football. They are the worst team in football right now. The Colts are better than them. It's deplorable. It's deplorable that this team was in the playoffs last year, and it looks the way it looks now. There is legitimately nothing good coming out of there. LaShawn McCoy will see little to no running back one performances this year, and this is not a week where he will have one of those if it's possible. This is the team that did shut down Kareem Hunt last week, held him to a 3.1 yard average, under 40 yards or right about 40 yards, and 0 receptions. I don't expect McCoy to see anything but stacked boxes because nobody's afraid of Josh Allen. So he's got to develop and he's going to have the same thing, and he's going to have games, right? But no, LaShawn McCoy is hitting my bench this week. If I own him, I have to have something or someone that has a better matchup.
All right. And I assume that means that no receivers for the Bills or Charles Clay, who put up a 0 last week. They have Kelvin Benjamin. He's there. I mean, he's there. He's a person. He goes onto the field and does something when the ball snaps.
I saw someone in a Voxer chat. I saw the notification ask, Kelvin Benjamin is a drop, right? That's how people are looking at him this week.
He should not even be. I'm surprised he was drafted, to be quite
rough. That is rough. So on the Chargers side of the ball, Kevin, is there anything here that you're taking away? Melvin Gordon, you got Phillip Rivers, I think, who is, if he was a start last week and did well, I think he's a start again this week. What are you taking from this offense? Is there anybody who you are hesitant on to get in there?
I don't think Austin Eckler is going to continue to get 7.8 yards per carry. I'm just saying.
You think he's going to score 10 points at least?
No, though, the one guy that was interesting to me, I think, from this offense going forward is Mike Williams. Six targets, 5 receptions, 81 yards. I mean, that's solid production out of a guy that you could have gotten very late in a lot of drafts. I considered keeping him in the Falafel League. Ended up going with Lockett instead, which hopefully that'll end up working out for me. But considered keeping him because he was a late round draft pick for me the year before, so the keeper penalty was cheap, and that's good production. I like to see that. Now, obviously, they threw the ball a decent amount in that game, 51 attempts for Phillip Rivers. So, that kind of means everyone's going to get a little taste. But it was nice to see. The guy had a rough rookie season, but he had obviously a high draft pick, very talented. So. He's not a guy that I'm necessarily putting in the lineup this week, but he's a guy that I want to see another productive week out of, and then I'll start to consider putting him in there on a weekly basis.
All right, we are going to
see that touchdown that Terrell Williams dropped last week.
I did see that.
It was brutal, and he caught one. He caught one in the game, and then he dropped another one. So interesting to see his usage in that offense. But Mike Williams, I agree, Kevin, he's coming along nicely.
I liked him coming out of college. I was the only one. No one else was talking about Mike Williams.
Yeah, moving on. He was a first-round pick.
Not like he was drafted in the first round of the NFL draft or anything.
Yeah. Moving on quickly. All right, Kevin, we are going to start with you, but a game that probably doesn't need a lot of breakdown. You got the Vikings going to Green Bay to face Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. Kind of seems like everyone on these offenses are you get them into your lineup. You get, the Adam Thielen, Kirk Cousins, Stephon Diggs, Dalvin Cook, Kyle Rudolph, Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, Jamal Williams, of course. Can't get him out of there. Maybe not Jamal Williams.
Now, you know what? Honestly, Steve, we joke about it with you, but this is a week I would probably consider sitting Jamal Williams. I mean, very difficult defense. He did not look overly efficient last week. The silver lining here for him, and not for the Packers at all, but is that Aaron Rodgers is obviously a little banged up. Sounds like they're limiting him. He's hopefully he's going to play, but you got to keep an eye on that as well. But if he's limited, maybe they look to try and run the ball a little more. But against that defense, I don't know how much you're doing. Their secondary is actually better than their line, so you can't pass on them. You can't run on them. But Jamal Williams seems like the lowest hanging fruit as far as the guy to get out of my roster from the Packers offense. So he's a guy that I would look to get on the bench. On the Viking side of the ball, start everyone you can find.
Everyone. Mitchell Trubisky is not going to be running the offense against this Packers defense this week. So an actual quarterback will be manning the offense. No, don't sell Kirk Cousins short. Right?
Mitchell Trubisky played very well in the first half and then was restricted by his coach in the second half last week. I'm not here to defend Mitchell Trubisky. You could go
sounds
to Fanball.
Like you are.
You
really
can go to
sounds
Fanball.
Like you are.
You can go to fanball.com and read my article today where I defended him there.
You actually told me the only reason you were on the podcast tonight was to defend Mitchell Trubisky.
And promote his article.
Do you want me to
That's right. And really to talk about your Fanball article.
He really just want to talk about himself in his article.
You want me to slam the table here, Kevin? Steve?
No, don't do it. Don't do it. We're going to move on quickly.
Steve, can you get through the rest of the games in 8 minutes? I'm just curious.
No, absolutely not. Luckily, we get to cut some of this. Our next game, I think we should have a moment of silence. The Cleveland Browns, they're going to New Orleans. They're going to play a very angry New Orleans Saints, who are 0-1 after losing to the Buccaneers last week. I think we just need to be quiet for a second and think about what's about to happen to the Cleveland Browns. All right, that was nice.
No, nothing says podcasting like dead silence.
Cut that.
That's right. Nope, not going to cut it. It's important. The people need to know we care about what's about to happen to the Browns. They're going to lose by a lot of points.
Steve, I got news for you. Cleveland Browns are going to score points in this game.
This is not going to be close.
Why do you hate this? Why do you hate the Saints defense? I mean, forgetting what they did last
I think they have
week.
I think they have a fantastic set of cornerbacks. Okay, I'm not going to say that they don't. I think Cam Jordan is a fantastic player. I think that they're not quite what they were last year. Remember what they were just 2 years ago. It's not a big difference to what they were 2 years ago. They had it going on last year. I don't hate them. I just watched them play last week, and they looked like they had no idea what was going on. And the last time they played last year, what happened? What was the very last thing that happened to them? They got beat on that last play by Minnesota, and that could be a mental hurdle they haven't gotten over yet as a defense.
I don't think so. I think it's really, you know what? I think people make bigger deals out of that type of stuff than the players do. It's a new team.
Says someone who's never laced them up a day in his life.
First of all, I played football. Don't sell my freshman year of high school short. But yeah, listen, I've never played, but I think it is people that have never played that are the ones that say that, and then that there's hangover from one play. Look, you would lose the Super Bowl in a hard. I don't know. I don't think that they're thinking about that right now.
I don't think that Cleveland's going to keep up with them. Okay,
I think you're talking about a defense that was 10th best in points given up last year, and that's what I expect them to be in that general area again this year. I think they're a very good.
Sounds like 22nd worst to me.
I think that their secondary, as you mentioned, is very good. I think that Davenport as a pass rusher will come on as a rookie, and you'll start to see better things out of that. And overall, I think that they'll be much better this week than they were last week. Cleveland's a decent team, but I'm not buying it, and I don't know that they're going to score that many points this week.
I just feel like they have weapons and they'll put up points. I think New Orleans is going to score a ton of points. I don't think that I think New Orleans could win this game by 2 touchdowns, but still give up plenty of fantasy goodness to Cleveland.
You want to tell me the score is going to be 34-20? I'll agree with you, but I don't think they're giving up more than 20.
I'll take 35-21. I don't like agreeing with you.
I hate you.
That's fair. Can we all agree that after seeing what James Conner did to Cleveland last week, that Alvin Kamara is going to be running back 1 this week?
This feels like such a trap. It just feels like such a trap. Yeah, he should be.
I'm going to say that number 1 running back this week is going to be Christian McCaffrey.
Sweet. Love it. Love it.
Tiny dancer.
That's right.
Oh, my class. No, I won't do it.
All right. Well, you already did it.
Hey, you guys, did you start prepping your DFS lineups for this week?
I haven't yet.
They haven't taken any looks? Well,
I mean, I've looked.
Before you do that, why don't you head over to thequanedge.com. Thequanedge.com has the tools you need to play like a pro. With their lineup optimizer, injury tool, wide receiver cornerback matchups, and head-to-head tool, you will be armed with everything you need to win. You can make up to 150 lineups in seconds, see matchups to exploit, and compare players to help you make the right decision about the guys you're on the fence with at thequanedge.com. You'll get exclusive access to their industry experts, their articles, podcasts, and the TQE community chat if you join there today. I have done such a good job and thought about Kevin being in my head with this one that I kind of, for the first time, messed up the TQE read. But if you go to thequanedge.com right now and you use our code FFFunhouse, you get $10 off a monthly subscription. The first month, $10 off. Instead of $39.99, you'll pay $29.99. Go to thequanedge.com. Sign up today. Go through all those tools. Get your matchups down. Set your lineups. Win cash. Send some to me. My PayPal is Sal33. Yeah.
Trailed off there right at the end. That's all right. We don't need to revisit that. We need to continue doing games because we're behind, obviously, as is tradition when we do these preview games. So we are going to go on to the Detroit Lions heading to San Francisco to face the 49ers. Sal, we will start with you. Which of these 0-1 teams are going to turn things around first? Will it be the Lions? Will it be the 49ers? Which team do you think is going to right the ship?
I think it's the 49ers. I think the 49ers got out to a slow start last week and then actually got right back into a game against the team I feel is the best in the league, the Vikings. And that takes a lot of chutzpah, as they say. So I think Detroit has some serious issues, serious defensive issues. And I've heard a lot over the last couple of days since they got that shellacking on Monday night that the players are not happy with Matt Patricia and haven't been happy with Matt Patricia since he got there. He is running it like they are a JV football team, screaming at them, yelling at them, treating them like they're children. And the overall atmosphere is not one that specifically the defensive players are happy with. So you're looking at, if it continues to go this way, the possibility of a one-and-done situation over there. I mean, I think that the Detroit is in for an extremely long season.
Kevin, your boy Jimmy Garoppolo lost the game last week, but did not have a terrible game. What do you think that is going to be his kind of projective going forward? What is he going to be doing for San Francisco?
We're knocking it out of the park tonight, boys.
Well, we all know he likes to play from behind, so I think they're going to get down.
Right.
And no, I look. I think he's nowhere near a rookie. He's going to be better than a rookie, but I do think you have to sort of consider that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to have some ups and downs this year. The NFL is starting. The other teams in the NFL are starting to write a book on him as far as tendencies and learning how to play him and defend him. And we've seen it a lot. Those quarterbacks that get their starting jobs, light the world on fire in the first few games, and then all of a sudden you see them start to come back to earth a little bit as the teams build a book and are able to scout him and what he does. I think you're going to see the same type of thing with San Francisco 49ers offense. So you're going to see a couple of good games. You might see some big ones, and then all of a sudden you might see a game that's kind of a dud. he also doesn't have great weapons around him, right? I mean, we all like George Kittle, and I like Dante Pettis long term, but I don't think he's there yet. Pierre Garçon is who he is, and and Goodwin's already banged up, and while I think he can be an explosive player, he's we'll see what you get out of him this year. There's the weapons there they're not a team that's there yet. They're
Richie James.
Richie James, I love, but again, a rookie that's not really there yet. I'm just saying.
I agree with you. Goodwin's probably not going to play this week. I think signs are pointing towards him not playing this week.
They're building. They're a team that's building, so I think you have to take it with a grain of salt when they have bad games and get them in against the good matchups.
All right, and Sal, real quick, the running backs for the 49ers, Alfred Morris, Matt Breida, which one of these guys are you starting this week if you have to start one?
I think that they're still kind of considering Morris the starter and the lead guy, even though the touches were extremely close. And it doesn't sound like he's going to suffer any setback from that fumble. So for this week, my lead guy of the two would still be Alfred Morris.
All right, we are going to move on. The Arizona Cardinals traveling to LA to face the LA Rams. The Cardinals looked really bad last week. The Rams looked really good. Kevin, there were 34 quarterbacks that scored fantasy points last week. Do you know who was 34th on that list?
No.
It was Marcus Mariota, just to remind you. Do you know who was 32nd on that list?
That's really just mean. That's what you did right there. That was
Sam Bradford?
Nice.
It was Sam Bradford. Sam Bradford was 32nd on that list. So my question to you is, how long until we see Josh Rosen?
I think it'll be a little while. And I mean, look, if he comes out and does that for the next 3 weeks in a row, yeah, I think week 5 maybe you see Josh Rosen. But I think Bradford's going to have a little bit of a longer leash than a guy like Nathan Peterman has. So we've seen Bradford be successful on when he's healthy, but this Rams defense is very good, so this could be another tough one. I think they're going to give him the benefit of the doubt, though. I don't think you're going to see Rosen go in quite yet.
All right, and Sal, on the Rams side of the ball, the wide receivers, Cooper Kupp, Brandon Cooks, Robert Woods. Cooper Kupp got the touchdown. Is there anybody else on that? Who of this wide receiver core are you relying on each week as the guy that you were going to feel comfortable putting in your lineup? Is there any one of them, or is it kind of going to go with a flow each and every week?
Yeah, I guess it depends on who I got on my roster, right? So we were tagged in a tweet the other day, all of us, and I had responded to that tweet. The person, it was Kareem, who said, is Cooper Kupp a wide receiver too? Because he feels like one. He finished with 5 receptions for 52 yards and a touchdown, but all 3 guys played the exact same number of snaps. The targets were 9, 9, and 8, and they couldn't be getting used more equally. So I think it's really just who gets the touchdown this week. Maybe 2 guys get the touchdown this week. I think they're all low end to flex play type of wide receivers. So it's a matter of what you have. If you own Kupp, then Kupp's a wide receiver 2 to you. If you own Cooks, some people thought Cooks was a wide receiver 1. He's not a wide receiver 1, although he got 8 targets, and I believe Sammy Watkins never got that all last year, and he's the guy who supposedly replaced him. So all 3 of them are viable. They should all do well in a game like this. Arizona has a good, not great defense any longer. If I have them, I'm playing them.
All right. I don't think we need to spend too much time on this one. I will say before we move on, Ricky Seals-Jones, tight end for the Cardinals. We just saw what Jared Cook did against the Rams defense. They've got good cornerbacks. They've got a good defensive line. So maybe that linebacker core is somewhere that you might be able to attack. He might be somebody that you might be able to throw in as a tight end streamer this week. Anybody else?
Yeah, let me ask you this, and I know you want to move on. You want to spend too much time, and I want to see if I can find this stat here. But last week, David Johnson only got 68% of the snaps. So here it is. David Johnson noted he played only 68% of the snaps and lined up as wide receiver just 3 times. Chase Edmond got 17 snaps, 4 carries, and 4 targets. We saw Jalen Richard as well be used a ton as a receiver in this game. do you think that – and they only had 2 running backs active last week, David Johnson and Chase Edmonds. You think Chase Edmonds is a guy that you could see playing that Jalen Rashad role this week and getting used a lot?
Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that it's possible. I think it's interesting. I was listening to the NFL Network was on in the background today while I was doing some work, and one of the things that they were saying that it was actually an interview with Carson Palmer, who was talking about the Cardinals, and he said that he thinks that David Johnson is going to finish the year as an MVP candidate. Obviously Palmer played for the Cardinals, so a little tie there, and whatever, take that with a grain of salt. But look, I think Edmonds is a nice player, but unless David Johnson goes down, I don't know that we're going to see that much volume out of him because I think they're going to use their stud.
Shocking, though, that with only 2 guys active last week, he saw less than 70% of the snaps. It was for me. It was a surprising number.
I would say that it's more shocking that they didn't use him more, that they didn't use David Johnson more, and I think that that's how they should use him. I wouldn't be surprised if Chase Edmonds got that work. I think that David Johnson could easily get the Jalen Rashard work on top of the Marshawn Lynch work and do everything that, both of those guys did. He's that type of player. He's that dynamic. He can do all that stuff.
So let me ask you, what do guys like Le'Veon Bell, Todd Gurley, what's their snap percentage usually? I mean, it's up there.
Yeah, it's over 90%.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess I don't know. I don't think that Edmonds is going to get that much. I don't know.
Edmonds wasn't a guy coming into the season where I was like, oh, put this kid on your roster in his rookie season. I think he's a nice player, dynasty owned. It was surprising to me that they dressed 2 running backs and then dressing 2, like we discussed the other day. Giovanni Bernard got 8% of the touches. He got less snap percentage than Chase Edmonds did in this game. It's a number I'm throwing out there. I don't think that David Johnson is in danger of losing his job or in danger of not being a high-end RB1, and I think that he should probably come out and thoroughly dominate in this game. I was just saying, interestingly enough, they seem to actually like this kid, Tate. I'm sorry, Tate. Somebody just texted me about the last name of Tate. The kid Edmonds. I think that he's a guy that you just got to keep on your radar in season-long leagues, that it's possible that he could be there to give David Johnson the rest that he needs to last an entire season.
Yeah, I agree. And, I think some of it's chalk it up to week 1 after Johnson missed an entire season. And then, but yeah, it certainly could be.
We'll check back next Tuesday at what the snap percentages are for this game. It'll be interesting.
All right, moving on to what I consider the game of the week. That is the New England Patriots heading down south to Jacksonville to face the Jaguars down there. Kevin, take us through this game and what you expect to see from this one.
Get them, Jags.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's tough, right? You're talking about one of the best offenses in football going up against one of, if not the best defense in football in the Jacksonville Jaguars. I still, I think you're going to probably play Tom Brady because he's Tom Brady and he's still going to get his. And, the running backs are banged up. Rex Burkhead has a concussion now, and Jeremy Hill is out for the year with a knee injury. So Sony Michel looks like he's trending towards being active in this one. And James White, obviously, they also Kenyon Barner is on the roster now, and they did sign someone else back to the practice squad. If I can't remember off the top of my head here who it was, but yeah, I mean, it's just they're not going to use these guys anyway. I think you might see Sony Michel do a little bit in this one, but overall, I'd be very nervous again for Chris Hogan. We talked about his game last week being a little bit of a dud, and I can expect to see that again this week because he's just going to be most likely blanketed. Ramsey might be on Gronk, and even with that, I still expect Gronk to get some targets, but it's just going to be a tough game all around for the Patriots. I think they'll win this one because I don't think the Jaguars will score much. So I expect a low-scoring game and not a lot of fantasy goodness here.
I hope that Gronk catches a pass and Ramsey's hanging on his leg and Gronk drags him 40 yards down the field. I've said this before. Jalen Ramsey to me is the best cornerback in the league right now, but I just don't like him. I just don't like his personality. He is the ultimate crap talker in the NFL right now. And I'll be honest with you, Kevin, I think that Hogan's going to find little soft spots in the zone and have a successful week. OBJ found room to have 11 receptions for 111 yards. I think Hogan has a good game. I don't know that.
I mean, OBJ is a little bit of a different receiver.
a little bit, right? But my point is, I think he'll find his little the way that the Patriots run an offense with the quick passing, quick off the line, and stuff like that. I think they'll find a way to get it done. It might not be pretty, and it might not be a lot of big plays, but I think he could run up actually a lot of receptions and maybe not a high yardage total. So
yeah, the problem with that is the Patriots are willing to give away something, right? Mm-hmm. They're always willing to do that. So if you want to blanket Hogan and try to take away Gronk, they're going to take the other options that are open, James White out of the backfield, or you might see Hollister, the other tight end, getting a little bit of a look in this one. So Philip Dorsett is a guy that could have another decent game. I'm just saying that they will exploit what's open and not necessarily force the ball to Hogan. The one guy that I do find interesting, Steve, and I'm sure you want to move on from this game, but on the Jacksonville side of the ball, even though I don't think they're going to score points, I think the Patriots are susceptible to tight ends. Austin Seferian-Jenkins is a guy that I would look at and consider getting into my lineup this week, particularly in DFS.
Just make sure you pay attention to what he does throughout practice. He is dealing with a core injury, so he has been a limited participant so far this week. But yeah, that is somewhere that they can be attacked. So I agree with that. If he is active and he is healthy, definitely keep an eye on that. We saw last year the Jaguars get, when they want to target the tight end, they can do it. They got Mercedes Lewis 3 touchdowns in a single game. So they know how to do that. All right, we're going to move on unless anyone else wants to continue here.
That game was in London, by the way. Cheerio.
Oh, yes, it was. I remember that. I remember it fondly.
Wow.
All right, Sal, you want to talk about this one?
Nope.
Oakland Raiders traveling to Denver, Mile High, to face the high-flying offense of my Denver Broncos now. What do you got? What do you bring to the table here, huh? It is now. That's right. We scored 20-plus points against a battered, non-existent Seattle defense. What do you got to say about that?
Should be the same this week.
So John Gruden was asked. Cooper was open deep. He was open a couple of times. For whatever reason, we didn't go there. Oh, I just called out the quarterback. I traded away my best defensive player, and now I'm calling out my quarterback. It is a clown show in Oakland, an absolute clown show, and I don't wish to talk about them anymore.
Marshall,
all right, well,
I'll talk
about the game a little bit. Let's get everyone in, because I think it's going to be a high scoring game. Actually, I think that both sides of the field are going to score. I know that the Broncos defense has been good for several years. I think they're starting to take a little bit of a step back. You're seeing some other great defensive teams rise up in the league, and I can see them wearing down a little bit. I think Gruden and the Oakland offense is really going to look to change some things up and get some more points on the board. I think Derek Carr is going to have a much better game this week than he did last week, and I expect Amari Cooper to be Amari Cooper.
Let me explain to you the type of season.
Not show up.
Here's the type of season that's going on in Oakland. Okay, this is a notification I got today. The Raiders get skunked. A skunk got loose in the Raiders locker room this week, and it's still missing. This is the type of stuff that's breaking news out of Oakland because their team sucks.
That's rough. That's rough. I do not think that Oakland really has much of a chance. The spread for this game, Broncos -6. That is a pretty hefty spread considering their defense. Like you said, Kevin, I think their defense last year had taken a step back from the year before. But I think with the additions that they've made, I think they're going to right the ship a little bit. I don't think they're going to go back to what they were, 2 or 3 years ago. But I think they're taking a step forward from where they were a year ago. And I think that if they were able to stop Russell Wilson, they're going to be able to stop Derek Carr. And I'm not worried about it. Give me the Broncos. I don't know about 6. It seems like a lot. I'm not buying into their offense all the way. Is there anything else?
So not give you the Broncos then. So you're saying give me the Broncos, but not
to win, not to cover. Win, not to cover.
Oh, so you take the Broncos to win at home against a team that's in an absolute disarray? Way to step out on a limb, Chief.
I didn't say I was stepping on a limb.
I'll tell you how I'm going to handle this game.
I'm to be bold with every
Keep it moving, gentlemen.
All right.
I'm not going to root for the Raiders, but I am going to root against the Broncos. That's all I'm going to say.
Whatever. Anywho, Sunday Night Football. The New York Giants are going to Dallas to face the Cowboys.
I have that the Price is Right when they miss that song or that noise they play in my head right now. So Steve, if you could when you introduce that game on the podcast, if you could edit that in, that'd be awesome.
I'll see what I can do. Wait, you don't like the Giants? You don't like the Giants offense?
No, I do. I just the Cowboys are terrible, and this game's I don't know. Because it's the Cowboys, I expect the Giants to struggle because they always play each other tough, and that means that the Giants are going to play down to the Cowboys level in this game, and I think all around it's just going to be an ugly game for Sunday Night Football.
Good friend at work is a Cowboy fan. We're talking today, and he's saying to me, "What do you think of the game?" And I said, "You know what? The Giants played poorly, but the Giants are so much better than the Cowboys. The Cowboys are one of the worst teams in the league. They really are. They have nothing going on either side of the ball. Even Zeke did not play well last week. I expect him to do better.
Cowboys defense also worse than the Colts, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, they're down there in a nice grouping of garbage. I expect the Giants to win this game. And Kevin, I agree with you. The NFC East on a whole always plays each other very tough, regardless of who it is. I think the Giants win this one, and it's not as difficult as you may think.
If you guys, just real quick, Kevin, Sal, guess the spread for this game. Kevin, you can go first.
It being at Dallas, I'm going to say Giants -3.
I'm going Giants -3.
Yeah, I think the Giants are favored by 3.
In Dallas?
Yep.
Say Giants +1.
This is Giants +3.
Giants are getting 3?
Giants are getting 3.
Oh, give me that all day long.
Like you said, they play each other close. I think Vegas knows that. I think after seeing how well the Giants fared against Jacksonville week 1, they had a chance to win that game. I will be very surprised when they lose this game on Sunday night to the Cowboys. I will be very surprised when that happens. All right, we're going to move on. Monday Night Football, last game on the docket. The Seattle Seahawks travel to
Lock it up,
Field.
Steve. Lock it up.
Soldier Field. Is Russell Wilson in trouble this week?
No, he's got Lockett.
Lock it up. Oh, my God. No.
I think Russell Wilson could get points against any team in the league and any defense in the league because he is mobile and he moves. And even if they're behind, somehow in the fourth quarter, he manages to pile up fantasy points. It's just that he's done it for years now. So Russell Wilson, to me, is a starter every week. I don't get concerned about that. While the Bears looked really impressive in the first half last week, they got demolished by a one-legged quarterback in the second half last week. I think that this Bears team is good, on the cusp of something, not there yet. So I am not worried about Russell Wilson in this game. Savvy, smart player who knows how to get it done.
Kevin, I'll assume you agree with that. So I'll ask you if there's anyone on the Bears that you're not starting, that you're hesitant to start against this Seahawks defense that is not the same as it has been in the past.
The Seahawks defense is not the way it has been in the past, and I guess the only guy that I don't know. No, you start them all because why not? I'm not a big Burton guy, and I don't know that I loved what he did last week per se. But I mean, you're probably going to start him given the capital you paid to get him, and it's not a terrible matchup. I could see him struggling a little bit in this one. I like Jordan Howard, but I don't know that I'd necessarily start Tariq Cohen. He'd be at best a flex play for me. So that's about it. I'm not starting Mitch Trubisky or Mitchell, whichever he goes by. So
Sal's going to take a little issue with that.
Well, Mitch Trubisky is my sleeper quarterback of the week over at fanball.com. That's right, at fanball.com.
Hey, Sal, where can people find your stuff?
I'm glad you asked, Kevin. If you go over to fanball.com, you can see my featured article. No, but in all seriousness, I think Trubisky is, because of his running ability. If you don't remember this guy, when he came out of high school into college, he was regarded as the top dual threat quarterback in the country. So some people don't realize, or may not realize, he can run the ball. He had 7 carries last week for 32 yards on a touchdown. That's 9+ additional points on top of whatever he gets passing. He doesn't turn the ball over a lot. If you go back and look at the games he's played, he's had a 3 interception game and 2 interception games, but then he has none. So he'll have a game where he throws a bunch, but he'll have a lot of games in a row where he doesn't turn the ball over. The Seattle defense, other than Earl Thomas, doesn't worry me at all. I think they'll probably play. I don't think they'll be conservative this week when they hold him back. He's got a lot of weapons. Kevin, I disagree. I would play Tariq Cohen this week after seeing what Philip Lindsay and the stable of running backs over in Denver were able to do last week. I'm not concerned about that. I play everybody I got who's wearing a Bears jersey this week.
Kevin White.
It's hard to throw interceptions when you only throw 15 passes in a game.
I don't have Kevin.
Throwing that out there. You know, as you're describing Mitchell Trubisky in his second year as a pro, you know who he reminds me of? Remember when Matt Castle got a full-time starting job with the Chiefs? Could run a little bit, didn't throw a lot of interceptions.
Matt Castle, that was never the athlete that Mitchell Trubisky.
Are you kidding me? Look at Matt Castle's running stats.
Never a runner like that.
Go check the stats.
He's built like a big giraffe.
We're coming back to you next week.
You are so
Tuesday night with Matt Castle rushing statistics.
By the way, Matt Castle threw one more interception last week than Mitchell Trubisky did.
Also, Matt Castle is one of only 4 Matts in the NFL.
Of course.
It's just been quite a show.
All right. Thank you guys for listening to this episode, or not listening, whatever you've done here, to this episode of the Fantasy Football Funhouse. You can find us on Twitter at FF Funhouse. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram. And you can also find us at fantasyfootballfunhouse.com. And, of course, you can find all of Sal's work over at fanball.com. Be sure to head over there and check that out.
Now I have nothing to say.
I got you.
Guy, if anybody has stayed to the end of the show, because we've had quite an interesting show tonight, I want you to tweet at me. I made it. That's it. So anybody, I made it to me on Friday morning or afternoon or evening. I'm going to know you got to the end of this. Anybody else are going to figure turned it off by now. But thank you for your download. Thank you for listening if you didn't make it this far. And good luck this weekend. And we'll be back to talk to you about all the things that went wrong on Tuesday.
Hey, guys, listen, we talked about a little bit earlier in the week. FantasyCares.net is a great place to go to donate some money for, fantasy football. And I'm donating, personally going to donate $5 to FantasyCares.net if Sony Michel doesn't get, or if Sony Michel gets 60 total yards. So I'm hopefully setting the bar pretty low for a guy that should get some usage, considering the as we talked about, the running backs are a little banged up. So, I encourage you to do something similar. Sal threw out a hashtag earlier this week, so let's get that going. Hashtag FantasyCares over under. Set a bar for a particular player, and if the player hits that bar and helps your fantasy team win, throw $5 to FantasyCares. It's not a lot out of your pocket, and it'll certainly help someone. So do that, and that's it. We'll be back next week, I believe on Tuesday. So we'll talk to you then.